Okay, I'm unmuted, so now you can hear me. Thank you for coming. It's great to see some of your faces. Yeah, we are all here together from different countries and different time zones and different languages. And I'd like to start by just taking a moment to attune to bring us all together. So if you want to find yourself comfortable in your spot wherever you are, and if you can, put your feet on the ground, be nice. And I'd like to just take some breath together. So just taking an in breath, letting your lungs expand, and then releasing that breath, the contraction. And as you continue to breathe, opening to what we all have in common, this breath, and the rhythm of it as we take it into our bodies and release it out. That rhythm is the rhythm that is the governing factor of all life. All life is governed by this rhythm, and as we breathe and as we become conscious of the breath, we can tap into the connection to life itself. And so, with this breath, I want to connect with you and thank you so much for coming and being here. And then we can begin. So I'm here in this presentation to talk about the panel, the LGBTQ panel that's at the Pathwork conference next week, and to kind of give a little sampler and to talk a little bit about it. And also, Alex and I are going to answer some questions as well. So as I go on, if you have questions, you can type them into the chat, and in about 15 or 20 minutes, we will answer some questions. So the LGBTQ plus panel on the Pathwork conference is really a collection of six of us that represent gay and lesbian, bisexual people on this path. And this is a way for us to kind of show up, to be here and say, we're here in 20 years of Pathwork, um, and I've been deeply touched by. Can you hear me? I just got a notice. Is it okay?
Yes, yes.
Um, I've been deeply touched by the Pathwork and the wisdom in it, the truth in it. It's been such a huge part of my life. And I'm also affected by the teachings that the Pathwork Guide has on homosexuality. Being a gay person, um, well, I want to say how I'm affected and what it's like, but also I know that there's some people here that aren't familiar with the Pathwork. So I'll just say that while the guide has all these teachings on becoming the real self, and really this is the path to the real self and finding your inner truth and loving more and all these wonderful things, there is also some teachings that homosexuality is a sickness and that it's a perversion and it's a misconception and that it leads to hostility and fear. And just to let you know that is there amidst all the other teachings. And this is a way to be with that, to engage and be with both and all of it. And so I guess I'll start with how this has affected me. Those words, of course, are not just words. They reflect attitudes and beliefs that are present throughout society. our churches, our schools, and certainly, my growing up, legislation, laws, policy. Um, this is this is something that's not just in the pathwork, and so it's this incredible opportunity I feel to address something that is harmful, that's been very harmful to me, in my life growing up. Uh, that same sentiment of homosexuality is how my parents feel, and still to this day do. And that has been, it's been such a painful thing in my life. And I didn't really want to acknowledge that the pathwork had that in there, because I was just trying to heal. I was trying to love myself, and pathwork, ironically, it had so much to do with my healing. And so I kind of pushed this aside, these teachings, and I didn't want to look at it. I had enough of it. I was just trying to get enough of myself together to just be myself and love how I love. And so it took me a while to really grapple with this information. And again, I feel that the surge, you can see it, of pain, of what these words have, how they have affected me, both from the outside, right? Other people's beliefs and attitudes, but of course I didn't grow up in a bubble. I have them too. And perhaps that's the hardest thing to open to, is that, oh, I have this internalized homophobia that has been this self-hatred that I've had to work with and keep opening to, and it's been very difficult. And something that really brings me here today is that the Pathwork has this incredible technology, of how to really be with misconceptions. And the teaching is, hey, find these misconceptions within yourself. Find them, illuminate them. And here we have it within the Pathwork itself, where I am like, wow, the homophobia is within the teachings, which is so hard to engage with, and to know, to let myself feel that it's still just so difficult. And yet the Pathwork teaches, that we come to this, whatever we find challenging, undefended, that we feel the pain. And so my commitment to the Pathwork has really been about what the Pathwork Guide also talks about, is, challenge everything. That you get to question everything here, question this. And it really helped me commit more and more fully in my life to the Pathwork, because I could challenge it, because it wasn't absolute, because there was this way in which you could open up. And I guess that's what I'm doing here, is to stand here, to illuminate this, and to say, wow, this has been so painful, and I want to talk about it. I want to go through the process of finding the truth. And my own process has been that those ideas and beliefs about homosexuality are not true. That my sexuality is in and of itself divine. And it's been so hard to come to that, to let that move, to let myself love and open. And I guess this is kind of another wave of that coming out of that, allowing that life force, this my current to move through. So that's why I'm here. Um, I'd like to turn it over to Alex now. Thank you.
Okay, Jodi, I'll keep speaking English because of the technical stuff, so Jodi can understand me. And I'm with you, Jodi, in this illumination, you know. And I believe that the aim of this pathwork is to effect personal development of all of us to the utmost of our individual potential on all levels. And for this growth to take place, a variety of approaches are necessary. Our mind needs to be totally empty in the sense of all preconceived notions that need to be challenged and need to be examined. And this means openness to change. In this open state, some old opinions, beliefs, and ideas will be reinstated because of this truth can become discernible on a deeply felt level. And this means preserving traditions. Then the old truths will live in a new way, in a conscious, new to the person. And this means renewed traditions. Other old beliefs will be discarded because they no longer make sense. And this again means change. All of these discernments begin with the action of talking about opinions, beliefs, ideas. And we are here to talk, and we are here to hear. And then I want to talk about privacy and secrecy. Privacy is a very deep need of the soul. All of us need to be by and with ourselves. We need time alone. In this time alone, we can delve into our depths to find new levels of inner reality. And then from these inner realities, we can create vibrations, influences. And there are times we even need periods when something we essentially desire to share with all our beloved ones needs to be kept to ourselves until we can be open and showed to others. It can be a thought, it can be a new state of consciousness, or even a new artistic creation. And it may need time to complete itself before being open to others. And such periods of privacy do not indicate isolation. But secrecy is never positive, at least in its real sense. Secrecy is never positive. Secrets always hide something negative. Otherwise, they would not be kept secret. Either you wish to keep something hidden from others, or another person wishes to involve you in hiding something negative or destructive. The person who wants to keep something secret, either alone or in conjunction with others, this person is perfectly aware of hiding something negative. Otherwise, it would be unnecessary to keep it secret. The true concept of privacy never implies keeping secrets. Nothing that is true and beautiful needs to be kept secret. Secrets are always a way to avoid relationship, to avoid intimacy, and to real and fulfilling contact. Often, an important reason for secret is the fear of self-exposure. And this fear says, if I show myself as I really am, they will not love me. In 1991, I found out I was HIV positive. And that virus came into my life through a sexual relation. I was shocked to the core, and I believed that was a death sentence. And because of this conclusion, I kept this as a secret with all the negative and destructive things I felt about myself for 6 years. And then I found this pathwork. And I started working with all the idealized self-image, with all beliefs that I had about myself, about others, and about life. So I stood up, I took charge of my life, and I proved myself that I could do something with that experience. I may have HIV, but it hasn't got me. The pathwork is clearly designed to gradually but surely eliminate all secrets. First, you learn to stop keeping secrets from yourself. You realize how much material you had ignored, kept unconscious, secret from your conscious mind. Then you learn to apply the same honesty and openness you have acquired toward yourself, toward others as well. If you continue, you cannot help experiencing this as the only way to be. Only this can you fulfill your need for contact and live without fear or anxiety, without shame or hiding, and without pretenses. Keeping your negative aspects secret makes it impossible to reveal your best self. You feel embarrassed about yourself, your innermost thoughts, your innermost dreams and desires feel shameful. So this panel is about to talk, and we are here tonight to talk and to hear. Jodi?
Yeah, thank you. It's very moving. I think we just have a couple minutes. Is there a question? Um, do we have time for that?
Yes, so we have one question asking if you guys think if the International Foundation should have a conversation and get to like a position in terms of how homosexuality and the guide works together and pass that on to the communities around the world.
Do you want to answer, Jodi, or I can answer?
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Well, this panel is about talking about this. So we are gonna give some more informations for the International Pathwork Foundation about how this affects us and how this is about our life. And I think this is one of the reasons of this panel, and the president of this foundation is going to be in the panel too next week.
I think this is the only question. I don't know if anyone else wants to ask anything.
All right. We give the word to Leticia, Mario.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much, Alex and Jodi, for your beautiful presentation. I'm looking forward to see your panel at the conference. Thank you. E, então, agora eu vou apresentar brevemente a Marianne Hubert. Marianne Hubert é belga, psicanalista junguiana, psicóloga transpessoal. Ela também é a líder do Paul, em francês, eu não sei pronunciar, é o Pathwork na Bélgica. Ela é helper do Pathwork, mestre espiritual e canal de transe. Ela é autora do livro Abraçando Nossa Imperfeição. O seu trabalho com as palestras do Pathwork é aprimorando pelo que ela aprendeu durante as suas experiências, ela fala no plural, de quase morte, e os ensinamentos do ser espiritual que ela canaliza. E agora eu passo a palavra para a Marianne. Welcome, Marianne. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation. You can start now.
So glad to be here. Thank you so much, Jodi and Alex. That was a deeply moving talk, and it was really, thank you for sharing your personal experience. I was deeply moved. Thank you, really. So, so glad to be here with all of you. I know some of your faces, so that's really nice to find you here again. So what I would like to talk about is how can we live without limits? How can we be our limitless self? And to start, I'd like to go back to some important events in my life that Leticia was mentioning before, is that I had 7 near-death experiences between ages 3 and 18. And I'm not going to go into the magnificence and the love and the beauty of this experience, but the specifics that were shown me each time by the spiritual beings that guided me through these experiences was that I would have to come back for everything, back to earth, for everything that wasn't love. And I was shown each time, it's like a movie, it's in several dimensions of all the scenes of my life, even when I was 3 years old, the scenes where I had hurt someone or where my attitude was not aligned with spiritual law. And this was shown to me each time with a great acceptation and acceptance and love. And this was all really fine. This was just a really natural, neutral state of being. This is what coming to Earth was for, is to be confronted with certain elements of myself that I hadn't come to terms with yet. So I could see how I impacted my mother when I wasn't eating my spinach. And I could also see how her negativity impacted me. And every time I could feel my own pain, I could feel the pain in the people that I was interacting with. So this has left a really deep impact on me. And it was, of course, it made me a really strange child. The reason that there was so much acceptance and so much love around this is that this is just who we are supposed to be as human beings. And could you show the image now, please, Luigi? Because each one of these negative attitudes, so thanks, I think you can take it off again. Each one of the negative attitudes is just a potential of recuperating the light that it was originally. So if you only look at yourself as a human being on Earth, then of course you can be afraid of some of the negative traits. But if you look at yourself as being the divine being that we really are, then the negative traits are just an opportunity to reclaim and to, from the negative parts, you can reclaim your highest light, because that's, everything is light. There is no other origin than light and love. And we come to Earth to experience that and to see the parts of ourselves that are still frozen. So who are we really as human beings? What is the limitless living? Limitless living isn't about, you know, having a third car in the garage or having a bigger house. Although, well, our current society has shown us that as an example, and that might be for some people the highest possible level of experience on Earth. So I'd like to go back historically of how have we reduced ourselves from this limitless divine being that only has to transform certain elements that are still frozen. How have we become to feel small and guilty and full of shame for whatever reason? Well, of course, religion has had a very important role to play in this situation. Religion told us that we were supposed to be angels, that we are, and that it is by making an effort that we can fight our animal nature, and the animal nature of which sexuality would be a part, and that we still have to be, we should be at fight and in a fight with ourselves all the time. I should fight my instinct. I should fight my God-given forces, for instance, sexuality, whatever its expression. So this is a story we have bought because we do want to grow. We have an innate desire to become who we were originally, except it was misguided. And of course, we know where this comes from times past where it was important for people to fight their negative pulsions. So let's talk about the Middle Ages or before, where you see that now, I don't know if you have been following this, but just recently in France, the Catholic Church has accepted to take responsibility. So this is a major breakthrough, that they have recognized that they have a responsibility in the over 330,000 cases that were documented of pedophilia in the church. So this is, of course, any situation when you take spiritual truth and you want to take it to earth, then yes, there is going to be duality, and a church is a situation of duality. And I believe that even as path workers, we can find the duality in the structure of the organization. So this was our first reduction, is religion. Then we have another reduction, which is science. Science, which can be also seen as another church in a certain way. And science would be fine if we would have as an objective to look at whatever is true. But that's not what happened. Science is trying to prove, well, except for quantum physics, which is a new movement. But before that, science was there to prove, well, to believe only what could be proven physically, materially. And this is, of course, going to be a problem if most of who we are is just not physical. Most of our being, the large spiritual being that we are, cannot be measured, cannot yet be measured. Not sufficiently for people to validate, oh yes, that part of you exists. So that was a reduction. Then there's another reduction. It's the one that when you're born, of course, you're born into an environment. And the environment that you're born in says what's acceptable, what is fashionable. And when you're born at a certain age, you can see the difference with our children, our grandchildren now, is that not the same rules apply to them as applied to who we were as children. So that is also like a reduction. So we have to hide some parts of ourselves. We make ourselves smaller in order to fit in. Then, of course, we're reduced as well by our education. Of course, our parents educate us so that we would have less negative traits. And this is not even a negative fact. It's just because they try to show us how we're going to live on earth. So they're helping us, saying that this is not going to have a good effect in your life. But still, when you look at it, it means that most of you is not really welcome. Of course, some negative traits aren't welcome, and some positive traits are not welcome, because you may very well have a talent, aspiration that is not validated by one of your parents. So you learn to hide it in order to not be a threat to the people you depend on. So, of course, there is so much more to who we are than just this reduced version. So do we really have to be reduced as human beings? The truth is, there's so much more to us. Of course, the fact that we have been advised to get rid of certain elements means that our intellect is seen as a savior. It's what you are, what you think. And so we invest a lot of effort in our children's education and ourselves. So we are proud of our intellect. The truth is that the intellect without the instinct and without intuition actually can only be in fear. Because the intellect is, of course, an excellent tool, but it's only one tool among the many tools that are available to each and every human being. So we need to get back our instinct. We need to get back our impulses. We need to learn how to work with our intuition and how to listen to it. So this is the beauty of the Pathwork teachings. This is exactly the Pathwork teachings. I found them only when I was about 27, I believe. And when I read the first one, it was in a session. They were given to me in a Barbara Brennan session by a healer that I did some energy work with. And this was like a revelation to me, because this was exactly what I had seen when I was on the other side of the veil. That this is what we're supposed to be doing, is to confront each part of us that is not yet permeable to spiritual law. But not in a matter that it's bad and you need to take your eyes, you have to take your eyes away from it. But on the other hand, contrary to this common belief is, on the contrary, is that your deepest darkness contains your most beautiful, brightest light. And this is exactly what I found in the Pathwork teachings. And you have all, most of you here, I believe, are already on this path. So I'm, this is an open door that I'm trying to force. But anyway, it's so important to realize that we should not be afraid of the darkness. We should not be afraid of our negative impulses. Having been robbed of all the parts of us that make us part of nature, human beings are part of nature, are not something separate that needs to dominate nature. We are parts of nature, also with our negativity, with our instinct, with these God-given forces. Some of them may be distorted for the moment, temporarily. And if we look at the distortion, we get the pure version again, because there is no source that creates beyond good. Everything that is part of creation is good. It's just levels of transparency. Some parts of it are not yet transparent to spiritual law. Spiritual law is a big word, but basically it only means everything that's positive without the negative opposite that we know here in duality on earth. So it's love, it's abundance, it's health, it's beauty, it's, well, whatever, everything that we like. That is spiritual law. So everything that is not yet permeable, not yet transparent to spiritual law, it just needs a little bit of our attention. And this is where I was touched by your talk, Alex, when you said that, yeah, we do need that privacy. We need the privacy to be with parts of ourselves that we do not approve of, the parts of ourselves that we judge, that we have learned to judge because somebody told us they were wrong. So were they really wrong? This méfiance, I'm losing a word here. When we don't trust, so this distrust of parts of ourselves has made that we have looked towards perfectionism, because somebody told us that if you are more perfect, then you will have a better life experience. But here on the path, of course, we know that perfectionism is exactly what is going to keep us from being happy, because we are not perfect. We are not supposed to be angels. We are supposed to be human beings. And a human being is always made up of, let's say it's 50-50, 50% of light and 50% of darkness. And the darkness is what's interesting to us, because the light is already free. It's already liberated. It's already available. It's the darkness that still has the potential. So if we were not dark, can you imagine if we were all here sitting as perfect beings, wouldn't we be bored? We'd be so bored. When you look at a telenovela, when you look at a, you know, you don't want to have, you're not going to watch a series on TV which only speaks of perfect people. You wouldn't be interested. What you want the blood, and you want the drama, and you want the excitement, and you want the negativity and the resistance and the rebellion, because that contains so much life energy. So if we could just stop thinking that we should be something else than what we are. So the Pathwork teachings help us to reclaim all of what we are. And without being in a state of despair, that's probably the hardest one, because most of us probably still feel that I would prefer to be light rather than dark. So I have to go through this on my own, feeling guilty, feeling ashamed of certain parts of me. And then we cannot check that people actually embrace us, love us with our shadow side, with the parts of us that are negative. So the Pathwork helps us to open up and to show and to accept those parts of us which are negative. Of course, we have to look at the law of attraction here. So how do we create our lives? If we really are these creative human beings, of course we are. We cannot help but create. We create worlds with every emotion, with every thought, with every word, with every action. So we might as well be conscious of what we are creating. Normally, people think it's better not to know so much about this negativity. Let's just be positive. Of course, whichever part of us which is not conscious has more power than the parts of it that are conscious. So it's beautiful to be able to go and look at all these parts of us, and it's shown us little by little, step by step, through interaction with other people. We need the relationship, not so much because as children we were dependent on others, but more as the luxury to have the mirror. Of course, you can change your mirror every day. I can say, oh, I don't like this plastic mirror from IKEA anymore, so let me get a divorce. And let me now find a new husband who is going to show me something else. And I go to the antique fair and I try to find a new mirror, a beautiful one, a gilded one. And then, oh, what is my disappointment when still, when I look into that mirror, it's still myself that I see. And so this is the great gift of relationship, is that relationship which has as an objective not to find out who the other person is. Of course, you still find out who the other person is, but only through the process of seeing yourself. And this is the beauty and the warmth and the depth of Pathwork, that it is allowing us to see all these different parts of who we are and to embrace them and to learn to love them. We don't imagine if we're parents and that we have one beautiful child who is always well dressed and well properly behaved. We do not only love our well-behaved children. We also love the children that are always dirty and who have frogs in their pockets and have a runny nose. They're our children, right? So if we look at the parts of us that need some transforming as these children, there's so much promise in each and every child. So this is where being your unlimited self comes from, because you build from the negative instead of just wanting to have more positive. And if I need to be more positive, then I'm going to compare myself to someone else and say, oh, you're still so negative. Oops, I'm so relieved that I'm so positive. And this does not make for a world full of love and peace. And it's the growth that is exciting. It's growth, personal growth, relational growth, growth of consciousness, the way that Jodi and Alex have been making us aware today, that isn't it time to do away with all this moralization and this severe judgment? I think we are finally ready for the God of love, and the God of love sits in our own heart, each and every one of us. This, our God self, can be this God of love if we are willing to forgive. Is there anything to forgive? Hey, remember, we're human beings and we're entitled to 50% of shadow, of lower self in any situation. The truth of the matter is that you never get to, oh, just, I must be about 75% positive now. No, you get your dirty laundry. It's sent to you, and you keep, getting your nose in your dirty laundry. And that is actually a beautiful promise, because that means that there's so much God self to still be discovered and be the huge divine beings that we really are. We're only on earth to execute a task for the huge spiritual being that we really are. Voila. So that is what I wanted to tell you from my personal perspective. Is there anyone who would like to ask a question?
Yes, so we have a couple questions. The first one is, what do you suggest so we can accept not what we are, but what we don't know that we are?
You see, this is the good part, actually. It's whenever you challenge and you confront a part of you that really is ugly or hostile or full of, well, something not nice. When you confront it, it transforms into the beautiful light. So have you noticed this? Whenever you confront some negative part, who has experienced this already? So it's just, be curious of whatever it is that is not so pretty yet. There's always an angel in the devil, right? So whenever you're willing to look at the devil, you're going to see it, it's an embrace. It's basically a matter of saying, oh, this is a part of me that needs a little more love than the rest of me. So let me just give my warm breath to this part of me that is still frozen, that is still isn't as evolved as the rest of me. So there's never anything to be afraid of with negativity.
Okay, so the next question is, if you know or if you think that the spirit, I don't know how you want to call it, that you channel, if it's the same that Eva channeled before.
Oh my God, here we go again. I've been asked this question many times, so I cannot say that it's the same spirit. I mean, there's no such thing, although he seems to think it. I don't know why I call it a he, she. Sorry, this is just for ordinary. I just need to give it a name, right? I've always been one, you know, this has been a challenge for me, because why didn't this guy just say, hey, I'm Jack? Things would have been so much easier if he would have said, I'm Jack. And this was my personal resentment, because at the same time, I couldn't just give him a name, but it would have been so much easier. But I had to be loyal to whatever it is that came through me. I mean, I've been channeling this guide for what, since 2002, so that's 19 years. And I've learned to be obedient. This is a challenge for me. So he says, I'm the guide. And it's only recently that I understood, because guide is not a name. It's not an identity. Guide is a function. So I can live with that. What I know is that this guide certainly knows about pathwork, but also the manifestation is very different, because he uses metaphors and a sense of humor, but that's probably to do with who I am as a person. So I don't know if this answers your question, but that's about it for me. I'm just at peace with, okay, I'm channeling something. It's up to the people who are listening to the messages to see if they can find truth in there. As the guide, Eva's guide said, if you don't feel that it's truth, then just don't accept it.
Okay, so the next question is, why do we feel such fear and insecurity once we are faced with the unknown?
Right. Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, it's a matter of comfort. It's the comfort zone, right? So, you know, I like to travel, and I'm always on the roads, going somewhere, the group work, you know, this is part of the Pathwork activities, is we go on a large trip every year. So for me, it's easy, because I've always been looking for something else, for the unknown. Because when I died, I found the unknown, and it was just the most magnificent experience. So, you know, if there's anyone that needs to die here, I'm up for it. I'm willing. So this has maybe changed my point of view towards the unknown. That's the great unknown, death. So I can feel, some people say, I don't want to leave my village. I like living in my village. I'm comfortable in my village. So I think growth can only happen when there's the unknown. So, and then how do you feel when you finally, think, oh, there's these bad people who live in the village across the border here. You know, they're horrible, they're my enemies. And then you finally find the courage to go to the next village, and you find actually that there's friendly people there. I think if you wouldn't have been afraid at first, then you wouldn't be so relieved and happy once you get to once the uncomfortable part becomes your comfort zone. So I think as human beings, what we're supposed to do is just make whatever is uncomfortable comfortable. And that does include a certain amount of fear. I think it goes with the package. We wouldn't do it if we weren't uncomfortable. So it's the call of some people do extreme sports. Now, this is the sort of thing I just can't get it. Even going on to, to Disneyland. I mean, it's like, this is terror for me. I cannot see why anyone would like to do such a thing. I mean, this is really scaring me so much. But still, people do it because they want to test their own limits. Isn't this what we're talking about? The limits. Go beyond your own limits. Your limitations. The fear turns into pleasure and bliss.
Okay, we have a couple more. So
Okay.
the next one is asking the spirit, the entity that you channel, how do you think he or she treats the subject of homosexuality?
Oh, yeah, there has been a lot of talk about that, actually. you know, it's just a matter of, okay, I'm just going to try to make it short because I could talk about this for hours actually. So what this guide is saying is that as when we are in our spiritual being, we do not have any sexual characteristics. So we are all both masculine and feminine. And so it's just, there's just one part of, you know, it's what the disc, right? I believe he talks about this in some of the lectures, is what part is more to the fore? So which part of you is more visible? Because it's all there. You know, we have an inner masculine. It's for in Jungian psychoanalysis, of course, it's the animus. And for men, it's the anima, and it's just part of who we are. So when we do not have a spiritual, when we do not have a physical body, then we are just the total human beings that we are, human divine beings. And there should not be any limit to the way love is celebrated, because it's not a matter of, is this beauty? I mean, you can have a perfect heterosexual relationship that is based on hypocrisy, that is based on possessivity. This is what the guide talks about. But if you want, you know, we have regular channelings, you may want to ask him that question yourself. So it's not a matter of, is it, you know, acceptable love? It's a matter of, is it love, or is there a power current? Is there hostility? Is there possessivity? So if it's love, then it's love. And none of us are yet capable of the perfect love, because otherwise we wouldn't be incarnated, right? So we want to experience the fact of not having any sexual characteristics, because that is a limit. It narrows us down. If you're interested, I don't know if any of you are aware of the work by Jane Roberts. You know, it's Seth. This was channeled material back in the 70s. It was the beginning of the New Age. So if you read, it's The Nature of the Psyche. And in that book, this Seth entity says that it's our nature, that we are bisexual by nature, and that it's only the progressive limitation, the narrowing, that has made us decide that, oh, I'm a man, oh, I'm a woman, and if I'm a woman, I can only sleep with a man. I don't think that this is our spiritual being at all. This is what this guide says, that this is set. So, and the guide I channel, he only talks about the quality of love and the fact that we are so curious and so impatient to find the whole freedom of the nature that we are as a spiritual being.
Okay, we have two questions were kind of similar,
Okay.
should be questions. So the first one is, if we have the right day to die, if you have like a preset day to die, I think that's the question. And the second one, which is kind of similar, is how, in your experience in the channelings, does the entity world see the suicide?
Right. Okay, so what is the right age to die? So honestly, if we would be as large as we really are, if we didn't make so much effort to become more narrow human beings, then we would find exactly that we have a wish to die. Actually, there is no possibility for someone to die who has not decided to die. This is what the guide says. It's only that we have dimmed our consciousness of the parts of us that says this is a right time to die. But it's always our decision, And if we decide to die, we can meet a virus, we can meet a gun, someone's gun, we can meet a car accident. So, and everyone has their own reasons for the way we want to die. For some people, you want to die in, if your life has been on a low level and you didn't take too many chances, then for example, you might choose to die in natural catastrophe, because then you feel that the intensity of nature responds to the part of you that is still wild. And you say, then I'm going, but I'm going in a blast, I'm going in an intensity. Or you might decide that, no, I'd rather die in my bed, and it's always our own decision. It's just that the narrowing down makes that we are no longer aware of this decision. So suicide, once again, it's only a matter of what is your level of consciousness? How conscious are you of certain elements? If you are conscious, if you're on the path, you know that, okay, suicide might not be the right decision, because, okay, you die and then you say, oops, now I have to start all over again and get a body again and find parents that have the same negativity that I need. And then, you know, you have to wait. You have to wait when you're on the other side, and that the conditions are reunited so that you can create your body again. So that sounds, you know, sometimes it's a bit tedious. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing morally wrong with anything, because we have free will, and we are allowed to use our free will, because living on earth is experiencing. There's no right or wrong, not fundamentally. So, you know, we know that even if we just sat here right where we are today, at some point we will be, we could not move and not be on a path at all, and just kill people. And at some point we would be engulfed by the love and the light. Right? So this is the truth, is there is only light. At some point, whether we like it or not, whether we look for the light or not, we will experience more and more light. On the other hand, it's like, we know that it's painful to resist and to choose the negative side. So if you don't like pain, then you're going to move. But basically, there is no moral judgment about this. So if you want to take your own life, that's an experience, because everything that has been alive will stay alive forever. There is no part of us that will stop existing. Even our physical body, right, is recycled, is nourishing other physical bodies, worms' physical bodies, birds' physical bodies, the earth's physical body. It's all the same life. It's just different facets, different aspects, different manifestations of the same life force. There's not a life force for humans and the life force for a dog. It's the life force, and there's a sensuality, a sensuousness, and the pleasure in, oh, I would like to experience life from this side, and now I want to experience life as a serial killer, and now I would like to experience life as a, you know, as a saint. So I hope this doesn't sound, you know, I'm not mocking. It's just that it's not so serious. We shouldn't take things so seriously. We really are entitled to free will. We have free will. Until we no longer need it. Actually, in one of the messages recently, the guide said, we don't need free will. You need free will, because there still is a part of you that thinks that walking on the dark side is going to be to your advantage. But so the higher beings, they don't need free will, because their free will is God's will. But as long, you know, there cannot be free will without freedom. So it would be terrible if there was like a trap. Oh, you might take your own life, and that would be terribly wrong. Ha ha, now we got you. You made the wrong choice. You know, there's no wrong choice. So this was it then, Luigi.
Yeah, I'll ask the last question. So the last one is, when did you first channel the guide? Were you afraid? And did you ask to be like this in between the spiritual and us, or did it just happen?
Oh, actually, how I opened the channel, this is really interesting. Yes, I was afraid because it happened when I had this first session with an energetic session. So I think this must have been the first time that my first chakra was open. So this was so frightening because I had this energy session with a healer from Barbara Brennan's school. He was from the States and he was just briefly for a few months in Belgium. And so I had this feeling from that minute I was still on the table receiving this healing, when all of a sudden I became aware of another consciousness next to my consciousness. So this was frightening, to tell you the truth. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought that I was like, that was like schizophrenia. Honestly, I really was afraid. Of course, it took me only a few months to realize that this other voice was much better than my voice, than my consciousness. It was like, whoa, you know, there was nothing to be afraid of. It wasn't like telling me to kill someone. It was giving me a much larger point of view, which was always loving and wise. So I learned to trust that voice. But I mean, there's been many stages. It wasn't just ta-da, there was this one guide. No, I had to, you know, my own purification process opened me to different levels of this same entity. At first, he's got a sense of humor. He said that he was the technician guide. No, at first he said there's a platform. This is a platform that you can turn to. And then for your evolution, and then this was in meditation. So when I meditated with the people who were already my followers at that time. And then at some point he said, I'm the technical guide. And it was only in 2007 that he said, now you can refer to me as the guide. And it was like, okay, this is a cosmic joke, basically, because it still doesn't say anything. So maybe he said it because some people needed this confirmation. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to give my, you know. So yes, I was afraid and I learned to trust the guidance. I still have a long way to go because sometimes he says something to someone and I'm like, I don't want to say this because, and then I'm left with a throat ache for like 3 weeks. So it's an ongoing relationship. Because this is the decision I made to remain conscious. This was a choice I was given. And actually it took about 6 months for me to accept that I was really going to be a channel, because I didn't want to. I was just, I had my brass plate on the door, Jungian psychoanalyst. So I was so proud of myself because I left being marginal, because all my life I have been this weird person. Maybe some of you think that I'm a very weird person too. Now I can live with it. But then it was like, oh no, this is going to take me back to this whole being weird again. This is actually going to be part of my talk in the Pathwork conference, is how I went from rejection to self-validation.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll save some of the questions for the conference as well.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you very much. Thank you.
There is one more from the YouTube.
Okay.
In your opinion, how should we seek God and divinity?
Well, in any way possible. In any way possible. And basically look at the perfection of God when he makes things go wrong. Well, it's not he, it's not this old bearded guy sitting on a cloud, right? But it's just that, it's God acts through his laws, through the laws, which are natural laws. You can see them at work in your own life. And so look at how when, you know, if things didn't go wrong, would we become conscious of us needing to open to something larger and higher and more loving inside ourselves? So we cannot accept another human being if we have not gone through self-acceptance first. So, and that's basically what our child consciousness does all the time. It wants to be accepted by someone else while it refuses to validate ourselves, you know? So when we look at the perfection that comes from the non-acceptance, is like, how could you learn to accept who you are if there wasn't somebody who says that you are wrong, you are not the way you should be? You would never. So this is also a way of seeking God, is to look at what goes wrong. This, for me, this is my favorite part of looking for God. So it's not some lofty concept. It's more like, oops, life is helping me here by showing me something, by putting something, ta-da, in my way. Like I'm going along and then all of a sudden there's this huge log that is going to block my path. That for me is the most interesting. That is how I look for God. It's like I'm being guided here. I can put my small hand in the hand of the divine, how should I call it? It's certainly not a person. It's the life force itself, the source of everything. So this is probably not the place that we look for him the most. So I don't know if this answers your question. Right.
Okay, well, thank you, Marianne. If you guys have any other questions, she's going to be one of the presenters at the conference. So over there, you can, she has more time to answer all the questions.
So thanks. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much to the organizing team, and thanks to the interpreters. I'm so amazed that you can just do this without me stopping to talk. So thanks, really.